it's time. Oh! Oh, that feels so good.
I was not expecting that. But
Not for that guy.
happy.
That does not feel good.
What?
Bro,
Oh my
what?
gosh,
No
man.
way.
Oh.
I wonder if all the people are gonna stand up and fight too.
Whoa. Dude, how did they film that? That is
Shots.
impressive.
Oh, he broke it on him.
What?
He broke the hammer on him.
Everyone is like,
Who
bro.
is this? Oh, the hero.
Oh,
That's so
man.
cool. Man. That was the picture we saw in the
Yeah.
trailer.
That's the picture, yeah. Oh, man.
That's awesome.
He's singing a song. You hear this?
They're so, like, animal-like.
Oh, nice.
No.
No lights.
Oh, that is gonna hurt.
Oh, baby gonna cry. It's like a scary movie.
Like Batman. Although Batman doesn't kill.
Yeah.
Well, this is Rocky. This isn't Batman.
Oh, it's cool how they're when they're stepping on the plate.
Oh.
That was cool.
Ew.
It's geniusly shot in
I
this
can't
part.
even imagine editing a movie like
No, man. I get a, yeah, oh my gosh. I get a headache just thinking about it.
this. Oh, come on.
Oh my gosh, they're like hanging there.
Ugh.
Came to scoop up the crap.
Oh, more like pat it down.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
that one.
That's all sound.
Dang, man.
No. Oh.
Ah.
Oh my gosh.
And he's
Dude, he is ruthless.
I don't even know
this
what.
is the stuff.
I don't even know what happened to that
This
guy.
is the stuff I don't like.
He like grabbed his jaw.
It's all sound mixing.
Yeah, the sound mixing.
His
Good
sound
sound
mixing
mixing.
is
Very good
out of
sound
this
mixing.
world.
He's dragging that last man.
Yeah, for the procession, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's scared now?
And the tables have turned.
Ugh, I mean, all of this is just.
This is not gonna look pretty.
I know.
Ooh. Yep. Ready.
It's the star of the movie.
Oh, he's
All right,
ready.
here we go.
He is like.
This is when he takes down the Empire.
Yeah.
You see how the kid called him a villain instead of a hero? It's interesting. I can't wait to talk about this movie after we finish
Yes,
it.
it's very fascinating.
Wow.
He burned their bodies.
Yeah, the guy that was sick in the bed. He
He
died.
passed away, yeah.
Now everyone's trying to claim the throne.
Yeah. It's gonna be a free for all now.
Yeah, now it's
Vacuum
like.
of power. That's what it is. Oh, he killed him. He killed him. What?
Oh. Plot twist.
'Cause he wanted to take over? I don't know. It's weird. Why did he kill him?
No, find out.
Yeah, it's weird. Why did he kill his
Yeah.
dad? Maybe we missed something? I don't.
No.
know.
Seeking power.
Oh, yeah, look.
That's what he said to.
It's true.
Whoa, kid's getting better at drawing every time.
I like it. It's the fair.
Yeah. Procession of the goddess.
That guy's throwing me off. Like, he just killed his dad, and now he's freaking out about his...
Well, I think he did it so that his brother would take power.
Oh, but now his brother's about to get killed, or at least...
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
yeah, he
they
is.
have to worry.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh. What? No, he did not.
What?
He just took the tunnels?
Yeah. Garuda is there already. And they're sacrificing the 3 people.
That's so horrible.
I know. Well,
Just to
apparently
show
they
his
say
power.
it's usually like the ram, so something.
Right.
These animals, but to show fear,
Mm-hmm.
he's using humans.
Unless he's one of the people now.
This is a lot of mayhem. I think you're right, Josh. He's gonna be right there.
It's gonna be like one of the people.
Milwaukee didn't work.
Oh.
Man is a monster. He's like
an
there.
absolute monster.
I feel like he's got...
They're like demons, man. I'm telling you.
No, they're actually like... Exactly.
It's gonna be the third one. Yep.
Oh, he's not there.
And the axe is suddenly not
Look
in
at
his
that!
hand.
Oh my gosh.
Oh!
They're gonna show it, aren't they?
Lomo.
No.
I hate you.
God!
Garuda's gone. Look at that.
Dude.
Boom. Oh.
Oh my god.
Look.
Yeah.
Hmm. Unbelievable.
Dang, man.
My gosh. The guy with the ring.
Yeah.
Now all these people want it. KGF 2.
Well, it's just that too. Is now I feel like everyone that he was working for is now gonna try to take it from him, possibly.
Yeah.
Oh, that was from the trailer.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Wow, so he could have killed him.
Yeah. Huh.
ಹಿಂದೆ ಸಾಮ್ರಾಜ್ಯನ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಧೈರ್ಯ ನಿನಗಿದ್ರೆ ಬರೀ ಒಂದು ಯುದ್ಧ ಗೆಲ್ಬೋದು ಅದೇ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂತಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂತ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರೋ ಸಾಮ್ರಾಜ್ಯನ ಧೈರ್ಯ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಪಂಚನೇ ಗೆಲ್ಬೋದು
Wow.
Of course it's gonna
I
end.
am enforcing the army and signing the death warrant of the biggest criminal in India.
이왕 शुरुआत
Wow, my goodness
Wow.
gracious.
Oh man. Well, first we did it. We finally
Yeah.
did KGF Chapter
Yay.
1. Long awaited. We know you guys have been waiting for a long time, so thank you for your patience and support.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I think we can start off by saying that. Before we get into the story, let's talk about the technical aspect of this movie. What stood out? What are some things that, what was our reaction to it? Do you want to start, Dad, or anyone on?
Yeah,
guess Mom, anyone?
I can start unless you have something to
No,
say
go
about.
ahead.
So cinematically speaking, I've from the beginning I did love the cinematography. I think any frame you freeze of the film is a beautiful picture. So that I loved. I loved the music drove a lot of the editing, and quite honestly, the first act, the first 44 minutes, was the editing was far too rapid, and we've seen comments about that leading up to watching the movie, that it's just too fast paced, and it is. It's hard. It was hard to get into the rhythm of the movie, and so therefore I lost. Not to mention that because we're reading subtitles, it was difficult for us to keep up with the visual, which is spectacular, like what's actually happening in the movie, and figuring out the characters, like some of these supporting characters.
Right.
You know, that was kind of difficult to manage. The character of Rocky, I feel like we spent all of Act 1 really introducing who he is, who he was as a little boy, his mom, and that's important. That was important, and I feel like we did get that. We got the clarity of that, but there's a sense of there were some things that were kind of lost in the process of that. One of the things we lost is that there was no sign whatsoever in the beginning of him, besides his mom, and his mom was the only sign of nobility, a sense of a character trait in him that would give a hint that he could have a different motive than just to be all powerful and dominating. But maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. We could talk about what happens after the fact. But the movie did slow down at the right time, around the 45th, 46th minute.
Funny,
Yeah.
somebody made a comment about that.
Yeah.
That was funny. That right after, like 2 minutes after you guys have seen, it'll slow down, which it's
Which it
funny.
did.
It's funny how
It
accurate
did.
that was. For
And
sure.
it was that moment where he actually showed respect to Rena, which he didn't at first because he was drunk and he kind of showed up with the rest of the guys and he seemed to treat her much like the other men were treating her. And so I still wasn't sure in that moment if I was going to root for this guy. He felt very much like a villain during the first act. So, I mean, I think the first act was not my favorite thing to watch, quite honestly. It's, again, cinematically speaking. I think the actor, it's Yash, right?
Yes.
He's fantastic. Here's why. And I can say this in the whole gist of the movie. If you take the whole movie, you know, and we just did a workshop on this. As an actor, he knows what he has. He doesn't have to try to be like hard and like super heroic. He just is.
Right.
He just is. His hair, his beard, sure, but it's what he believes in his eyes, and he's not trying any harder than he has to. He trusts the filmmakers to paint the picture that they paint, and they paint it very well. He is very well aware, and all he has to do is just live in it, and that's exactly what he did. So that's one of my favorite things in this movie is Yash. And I actually saw an interview that Jabi Kawai did
with
him, and he's like the nicest guy. He's like and that's why I love this movie. In terms of character, is if you poke the tiger, the peaceful looking tiger that's kind of sitting in the back, this guy, you don't mess with the tiger, and that's what this guy made me feel. So I love that part of it. There's a lot of violence. And at some point, it felt like a myth. At some point, I felt like I was watching a cinematic representation of something else. But anyway, I'm going into now themes, and I'm going to stop there. What do you guys think of?
I'll add on to that. I think it's interesting because the first act for me felt like we were getting to know Rocky as to who the people thought he was. Like from the people's perspective, he was seen as like this larger than human, very, you know. And what was interesting, at least for me watching it. It was kind of at times, it clashed for me, because like you said, there wasn't a lot of, I didn't see a lot of nobility in him, at least from my perspective. Regardless, killing is not okay. Like, killing
Right.
is not a good thing whatsoever. But I think something, not to compare, but from the movies we've seen, like, Bahubali, or movies that are epic in a certain similar way, there is a sense of, like, glory and valor and honor in what you're doing. So I think at first we were trying to gauge, like, what kind of movie this was, what the genre was. I know that this is from a different region in India as well, so maybe the movies from this region are different as well. So this, it's kind of our first time. This is our first, is it Kannada? I don't know how to pronounce it, but first time we've ever watched a movie in this language. So, and clearly there's a lot of fans of it. So I think the first act was us just trying to figure out what this was, and then once it kind of calmed down, we were able to breathe a little bit, and yeah, I mean, it got more interesting. It became more than just a mafia movie, and cartel and gangs and all that. There was more, a little bit more depth. I think the parts that I enjoyed the most were the more breathable moments with, like, his mom, or because it made him a little bit more human. And I think it's interesting, the relationship between him and his mom. And clearly he has no faith in God, or in a God to that degree, but he did believe in his mom, and he did have high faith towards his mom, and as a character, that was fascinating to watch.
Well, I think it's more than just his mom. I think it's for the poor. I think it's for people who are suffering. I mean, you just feel his sadness when he sees these people suffer, and he sees that mom with the baby, and it's even, he thinks of his mom, but I think his mom raised him. I mean, he was remembering those things his mom told him about, leading people and setting the example and having people follow you. I think she set him up for a greater purpose. And when we started the movie, it was hard to really get that, because you see this mom tell her little boy something, and then all of a sudden he becomes like this super monster type of character who's just killing everyone left and right, and he's being glorified for it. And I feel like sometimes these movies take us to that extreme where you want to, like, look away because it's too much. And then, I don't know, not only these movies, but I've seen movies before where I don't know how long that is, that you can take an audience in a direction before you have to shift, or you lose your audience. This one took me to that edge of the cliff at the beginning, which is why I said, let's just turn this off, because it was just too much all at once, and it just kept going and going and going, where it was like, okay, I'm not getting the point of all of this. I'm just getting a lot of cool action, a lot of good editing and good cinematography, but I'm not getting the point.
Yeah.
And thankfully you guys did let us know, hey, stick with it. It does get better, and indeed it did get way better. I have to say the second and third act, so much better than the first one.
For sure.
So I am thankful we stuck around.
Me too, yeah.
I'm also thankful, as much as it was very violent, Act 1. Act 2 did slow down a little bit of the gore. I mean, you see the emotions and you hear the sounds, but the editing saved me from completely checking out because of the blood and the gushing and all
because
that
that was
stuff
extreme
I don't
in
like.
Act 1.
Would you say that it felt more intentional in terms of the story? It didn't feel so, like, superficial. It felt more
in the second and third acts.
Right, yeah, that it felt more like
well, yes, in terms of why he was behaving a certain way, yes.
But
and the more we got into the gold mines, it started to feel like we were watching a modern fantasy. So some of the comments we've read is that it's like a Mad Max, and indeed it was. It was like a Mad Max meets like a 300, right? But this was a very fascinating hybrid to what we know, and again, this is Western perspective, so it's very skewed in that way, and I can hear already some of you saying, no, it's not like that, and it's different, and you're right, it is, and it's something we're adjusting to. However, what I think I liked is that we got the cinematic feel that, as Jenny said, the violence became bearable because of the artistic way it was handled in some of the parts. When he goes down into the caves to save the old man, that became a different genre. That was definitely like a horror movie, and or it felt like a Batman, like, you know, the hero that comes out of the shadows to bring down revenge on the villains.
That's just it though, that he's not like Batman, because Batman doesn't kill, right?
Well, that's why I said revenge. Remember, when we saw the Batman, that was the great shift.
That was the great shift.
He went from vengeance to I'm justice.
Right.
Yeah, this is vengeance. This, I'm gonna call him Yash. Rocky is all about vengeance and power and dominating the ones that were oppressing. But, however, what we're dealing here, what we see, the characters, the barbarians, as you call them. I love that you call them that, because that's what they weren't even human. They behave like these dark demonized figures that don't care for humanity, that shoot children and women and kill little baby girls.
Horrible,
I mean, of course you're gonna cheer for Rocky to slay all of them and all of this, but the question now is, what is he gonna do with all that power? Because he just gained an army of 20 potentially 20,000 people. Is he going to do good with that?
Yeah.
Or is he not?
Or is it just this like power hungry, trying to get to the top, and that's it?
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, going over there to the mines and saving these people, that's honorable. And now I know that all these other money, power hungry people are now gonna go try to take over this place. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the main purpose in the end is for Rocky.
I certainly hope he will be the victor if he's going to do good for the oppressed, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is he is a flawed character. Like, he comes from a broken past, a broken, you know, and there is so much poverty in India, and a lot of, you know, like, I think it's a lot of themes that people can relate to and that hit home for a lot of people. So there is just a lot of heavy themes and symbolism going on. But it's kind of, that's what I loved about that one moment with the kids after Rocky killed the main guy that kept killing all the different slaves. And he was like, one kid's like, he's a hero, and the other kid is, now he's a villain, which in a way it kind of sets the stage of, like, you know, who is Rocky going to be? At least that's my perspective. That's how I'm seeing it. Right now, I wouldn't call him a full-on hero. He still seems very, you know, there's a lot that I think Rocky could still maybe, I don't know, there's quite a journey I think he can still take, but again, that might be different for you.
I mean, it's definitely still at this phase of determining how we truly feel about this movie, like, depending on where this character goes. Because at first, like, I think we were all feeling the same thing of, like, you know, what's the whole point of this? And then when you see that shift of when he sees that mother with her child, you know, there's a switch to him, like, oh, wow, he is actually human. You know what I mean? So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, there's hope for this movie. But the way this ends, it's like, it's very much up to the second movie of, you know, what is he going to do now with all of this power? You know, so it would be very fascinating to see what happens in the next part, if it is really, you know, a hero story, or if it's just an anti-hero villain person. You know what I mean? It'd be very fascinating to see, you know, where this story goes.
Well, that's just, was it you that said that it was like, in terms of the mafia movies, where sometimes the characters you follow or that you end up rooting for aren't necessarily the best people? You know, that's kind of, that's right. So like, that's kind of, at first, when we first started it, that's what it felt like. And now, like, it's, I don't know, it's very interesting. I think
I just have to say, I feel like with this whole movie we were learning about who Rocky is, what he's about. The first part of the movie was concerning. I was worried that it was going to be a full-on movie of not knowing anybody and just watching a violent story unfold. But upon learning who he is, what he cares for, what his motives are, right, that made me care for him more. And so we get to the end of this, like, the whole mafia side of it was a joke. The only villains that scared me were the ones that were, like you guys were saying, the ones in the mining camps, the ones that were hurting people, the people that Rocky cared about, right? So all those other people that we don't really see, but we just see them standing in front of fire. I don't care about them. I'm not scared of them. I just know by the end of this movie that Rocky is someone with a strong motive and is really powerful. And that's what I learned. So when they're telling me, oh, all these powerful people are coming, I'm supposed to believe you? Like, I don't. I know that Rocky has the strongest motive out of all the things that I know. And that's why, fascinated is a good word.
Do you feel like it's anticlimactic for you?
It is very anticlimactic. I feel like fascinated is a good word. I'm fascinated to see what the next part might be about. How much more, it's going to be interesting to see how he conquers the next conflict. But I honestly, I'm interested to see a next part, but I'm not excited or on the edge of my seat like I was for Bahubali Part 1 to see what happened next. Because it isn't necessarily something that is threatened. It's more something that's being like, you want to see more? Come this way. It's not like I'm not wanting to watch another, but I would be interested to see what it's about.
Yeah,
but there was some things that I did love about this movie, which is the visual representation of how that the mom is covering him from the drips
rain.
on the ceiling, the rain, and then when she passes, he's covering her.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yep.
Almost showing that he's like gonna protect what her motives were, and so there's a lot of powerful things that saved this movie for me, and that made this movie what it is. But if it's to be labeled as a mafia movie, I don't think that's the right.
It's definitely more than that.
It's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that.
It's just more that I was referring more to like the first 45 minutes in terms of the vibes it was giving with like,
Well, it was like a mafia movie meets a heist movie.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna tell you what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna do it as we talk about it and narrate it, and then we're gonna move as fast as possible so that you can meet our main character.
Right.
That's what the first
That's
act
one thing
felt
that
like.
was like off for me. Like really, like sometimes editing, like if I'm being 100% honest, it was giving me a headache.
Yeah.
I was trying to read and everything was cutting, but from what I could see, and it was a good amount of it when it slowed down more. I did enjoy some of the parts. It's just it's more of that balance too. Because with a movie, you really, for me, it should not take a movie that long for me to get interested in it. But I know it's different for everyone. Everyone has different opinions, and you know what I mean?
45 minutes is a long time.
It's a very long time, but I am happy that we did stick around for it because it definitely did get better, and the story made more sense.
I also think, I agree with you. I also think...
There is a moment... Sorry, go ahead. I was going to talk about editing as well, but go ahead.
I know, that's what I'm getting to, is I think this movie has a lot of great things in it. I think it does do a lot of really great things well, but it also... This movie is an example of how editing can either make or break a movie, and I think at the beginning, for us at least, again, it almost broke it.
Well, we're not alone. Some people out there have said the same thing.
Yeah.
So, however, I was going to say, the one part that I felt the editing worked exactly the way it needed to is when they're sneaking the gun in. They're
was cool.
building the gun
That
piece
was
by
one of the
piece
best.
as they're taking.
That was one of the best
That
moments,
was splendid. That was the perfect use of that style of editing.
Just a,
But
a
okay,
balance.
so can we talk about though, like the action, like the part where he is with the what you call it, a sledgehammer?
Yeah,
He was like swinging and like the
That
way that
was
it was
cool.
very 300. I thought it was incredible.
At that point, that movie is so good.
At
When,
that point,
as
it
soon
makes
as he
sense.
gets to the
the
gold
mines,
mines,
yeah.
it
Movie
becomes
makes
a different
so-
kind of movie. It just it became.
Well, okay, it's just it's more the beginning. Sometimes it should be sometimes the most important part because it brings up the context, the setting, like where we're going with all this. Remembering all of the mafia's names just like flew right out of my ear because of the way it was edited.
Yeah.
They were rushing through it really fast. And
Like
it
I
was hard for
said,
me to process
I
it.
laughed through it.
Yeah, it was almost kind of funny. But I did like the, approach to it being, when it comes to the action. And again, I think it really needed to be balanced out a little bit more for me to fully like the way I processed it. But I really felt like I was like just chugging in information, and it was hard for me to fully process it.
I felt like he made like a full turn, like a 180 when we started the movie for the second part. Like after
the bread dropped.
that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The bread dropped and it was like, oh, I see this man is very different now. And to me, that I don't think that essence of that, not essence, but that part of yourself shouldn't just disappear, and then we see it 43 minutes later. Like, I really feel like it just felt like I was watching a different movie.
Yeah, but I think that's a lot of that's editing too. Because
Yeah.
because it really that's the thing I think I got frustrated with is I could tell that Rocky was actually the first 45 minutes felt like let's amp this character of Rocky up rather than who is he really. Again, it was like the people rallying and like worshiping this guy instead of us really getting to the heart of who he is because. Right. If this guy's been in there all this whole time, why is it that we're just seeing it?
Well, it's kind of like the Robin Hood effect.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, and you said this earlier, which I love. It's the people. Like the first thing you see is this author who's trying to sell this book and trying to bring this book to
Right.
light, and it's all these different angles of who Rocky was, and we don't really see the intimate parts of him until later. So I think that's why we get so inundated with all this commentary on who Rocky was as a child, and then who he became, like just this powerful, unstoppable force. And I think that for me was a missed opportunity, storytelling specifically, where, we just watched RRR and we've seen Bahubali, so and there's just all kinds of examples throughout all cinema where we see our hero become a hero. We see the training. We see the was he just born? Because even Hercules, there's so many myths. Even Bahubali, we understand where the strength and the power comes from. It's not questionable. We're not sitting here in disbelief.
Right.
We understand the root of the strength, the power, the overpowering ability. So in this, it was just like this little boy made a promise to his mom, and maybe it's a commentary on willpower, perhaps, and the motivation behind ascending not just classes but status, and maybe that alone is supposed to signify power. But then we come to find later that it's an answered prayer, that these people who have been mistreated and oppressed were praying for this this powerful hero, savior, if you will, and then he's born.
Right.
And then we realize so much later that's who it is. Mm-hmm. That whole time, that now I understood why he was born that way. But that happened way too late for me.
I really feel though, like another thing, like another angle to consider this on is the way and the speed that this movie is moving at. It almost resembles his life in a way. And how the moment he remembers is when his mom, when she died, told him to dominate and to bring power to the world, and that's the thing that keeps ringing in his mind. And everything that he was doing was going fast, like just killing people and just becoming the most powerful, killing all these, and it didn't really, there was no care in it. There was no weight to it. He was just slaying all these people, and it was disgusting for us, but maybe it was for him too,
Yeah.
And so the moment that he sees that woman drop the bread, the movie stopped.
The camera.
A good 30 seconds.
Well, how ironic is it that the car stopped? He stopped the car. It's almost like I love that. Keep going.
The momentum of the movie stopped, and he took that in, and then the event started to lead up to what his real calling is. And it isn't until that he gets there that he realizes that this has been his calling all along. That's why he has the flashbacks to when his mom is protecting him, and there's certain things that just as somebody that's trying to become a Don or be greater than a Don is just zooming through life, doing all these terrible things, but then when the moment he remembers what he's really about, that's when it becomes glorified, and that's when it becomes powerful.
Yeah.
So there's a beauty to this movie. There really is.
And
he has this. He has this air of like a power and wealth at a certain point of the film, at the beginning even, where he's overcome all these bad guys and he's growing in power, right? But he's being honored for his fighting and butt kicking, and the intimidation versus him truly answering a bigger call in his life, which is to serve the poor. You know, and none of that process do you see that connecting. Like, to me, it's like if his mom was in poverty with him, there's nothing in his life that indicates that he's giving back to that group of people that are poor, that need money, that need help. Like, even the bread, you know, lifting it off the floor and just cleaning it off and giving it to her, like, to me, I was just expecting, I think, a little, like, a different, where, you know, to face to face with the, you know, these powerful people, that's one thing, but I would have loved to see this other side of him where he's actually, you know, trying to...
In the beginning, you mean? In the first act?
Yeah, but like we said, we don't know where this is going, like defense and fights.
Well, that could just be that's... I mean, he was raised very angry.
Right. I just wanted to make a comment that I understand why there's an audience for this film.
Yeah.
I know there's a big group of people who love the action, the high stakes, you know, the editing and all. I mean, it was a very impressively made film. Like, when you look at it as a film, I could see why people like it, and I know that there's an audience for this.
To add on to what my brother said, to what my mom said, and to kind of... I was going to kind of counter-argue what my dad said to kind of get into the mind of what you guys are probably thinking. To how this movie might affect you is, you know, we're comparing this to like Bahubali, RRR, but these movies are made by the same director, same team, so there is a level of like, well, that's, you know, S.S. Rajamouli's vision, and I think this is the first time we've seen this director's work, so automatically there's a different way that this director makes movies.
Tells stories,
right. And there's also, I think it's easier to see good versus evil and like the themes of glory and valor when you have a very fantastical setting, you know, because it's very easy to see those colors and to see, you know, who's good, who's wrong with the kingdoms and all that. I think with RRR, that was, I think the more real it becomes, the more grounded in reality and the real world a story is, the harder those lines become, the grayer it all seems. So even with RRR, the lines became a little bit more gray. And so here, it really is tough to gauge, like, you know, where Rocky stands. And the lines of, like, what's good and what's evil are... It's a lot more confusing. You can't just say that, like, one action he did is justifiable, but also that it's not... that you know, that what he did... That you can't blame him for doing what he did because of the life he lived. You know, because it's one thing that, you know, the killing of that guy in the Colosseum of slaves, if you will, how they were all cheering him on, you know, fire on fire is still fire. And then, so, but then it's more complex than that because, you know, these very close to demons, not really humans, of barbarians and guards were doing so much evil for so long. So it does a lot. There's a lot of conflicting, I think, natures that go on emotionally and spiritually when you watch a movie like this. And I think the editing at times maybe made it hard to digest it. But overall, I'm very intrigued to see where it goes. And nonetheless, I'm grateful that we've, you know, entered into it and kind of seen where it goes.
Well, I'm grateful that a good story was told.
Yeah.
That it really had a heart to it, and that the intention. I'm sure there was multiple intentions with this movie, because if one of the intentions was to be epic, we definitely got that.
Oh yeah.
But there was heart to this story. They did ground it to a point.
And then also there comes a point where, I mean, you guys all saw me. I got very involved with the vengeance part, because now I felt like he wasn't fighting a bunch of humans. It was just take out all this darkness, destroy all this darkness, and I was all for it. You know, for me it was like angels versus demons, and he was like the leader of the angels for me. So it was great. I love that part of it. And you know what? It's funny how we have the credit scene frozen here. It and you said this during the reaction. A lot of this movie did feel like anime. It felt beautifully just like, I mean, I said this earlier, the pictures and all of that was just so well done. The slow-mos,
comic book.
Very comic book, right? So there's a lot to applaud in this movie. Here's the big thing to applaud: we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
All these years later, right? And we're still talking about it. And it divides people, but it also brings people together because we're talking about it, and we can agree to disagree. We can agree to agree because there's a lot of good in here as well as some confusion parts. But I really do think the confusion for us is because this is not in our native language, and I think if we were watching a movie in English or Spanish, where there's less having to look up and down, the editing is less cumbersome. It could be chaotic if you're having to translate and try to keep up with the visual.
It's a fast movie.
It's quite the brain game. It's really quite the brain game. So I can honestly say that at a certain point of the movie, I got used to it. I got used to the rhythm, the fast cuts. Then I got really fast at reading the caption, and then you get you want to keep up now.
Like,
Honestly, that's what was kind of funny is like boom, newsroom, interview, come in, I was like,
It was a sprint from the
from the get go, and then we didn't really get to breathe until
the bread dropped. That's really when the car stopped and the bread dropped.
I was remembering that at the beginning, the day the gold was discovered was the same day he was born, and there was a comment made about a savior. How someone was born out of, like, a woman brought a son that would save them. So it was very, like, when you think of him being born the same day that this gold was found, it kind of, him returning to that place is almost like him making that prophecy come true somehow.
And, if you think about it, to kind of wrap it up here, I do think the whole movie, because there's a lot of extreme expressions of, like, the Mad Max fields and, like, the wasteland, a lot of it does make it very, how do I say it, open to interpretation as to it's just the pure evil and hatred and greed of greed and power and selfishness and just self-indulgence and gluttony, like just all of it, and then you have like these people that are being tortured and killed for it. There's not much you have to really contemplate to know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, it makes it really, really...
It's dynamic. I want to add another metaphor that I'm thinking about, and I thought about this watching the movie. A lot of what we witnessed could be described as, and maybe Moon Knight is affecting me, but a lot of what we saw could be the inner turmoil that he's going through, because he could have totally gone to those wastelands. He could have cared less about the people, and he could have just waited for the right moment and just killed that Garuda guy, and it was done. Right. He's done. He becomes powerful because he could.
Yeah.
But something broke in him that needed to break, right? He had to remember what his mom... So all of that, we already said that. But I feel like it's also like the inner turmoil being seen in the bigger scope, which is kind of beautiful.
Yeah, man.
So,
if there is a heart at a point in the movie, all the epicness and all the action and the stuff that a lot of audiences love is justified to a point. And I think that's why sometimes that's why Age of Extinction is one of my favorite Transformer movies, because there's a heart to it. There's a reason, and there's characters that we follow. There's got to be something that grounds it. There has to be, or else it's just fantasy and we don't care. The whole mafia thing isn't grounded for me yet. But this movie, looking at this arc and who Rocky is and what he became and who he always was meant to be, it's a wonderful, wonderful arc. It was worrisome in the beginning, but it did, thank God, turn out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Do you think the arc is... I don't think the arc is done, though. That's the thing.
Well, it should be. It should be.
I honestly think we're
like,
still at the... What were you going to say?
No, I genuinely feel like the second movie will either make or break this series of the Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. He can either have all this power, go back to the way he was and just be another mafia, or he gets up here and he gets up to the top and really does
something.
genuine good and protects his people, not just claim the power for himself. You know, so again, it's one of those movies where it's like no pressure, but you're kind of determining whether I like this character or not. You know what I mean? So I can't say I love it yet. I can't say I don't like it. It really depends on the second movie.
Yeah. To go back, I think to what you said that in the beginning, though, I do think that Yash, being the actor he is, kind of gives us someone, you know, like you said, the eyes say a lot. So that I think if anything, he did exceptional, and that's another reason as to why we are invested in the moments that, you know, did resonate with us, because he is present and a lot is shown through his eyes. And I think that, you know,
there's two things that kept me in this movie. Two things: cinematography and Yash. That's it. If it's not for that, with all due respect, we can agree to disagree. If those two things are not in place, this is just a filmmaker that really loves to edit fast. And some people are gifted and they see life very fast and they tell stories very fast. There's filmmakers like that here in America that I'm not a fan of. I just can't watch their stuff because it is exhausting. Emotionally, visually, it's exhausting. This could have been that, but it didn't. They picked a great actor who knew he could just be. And the cinematographer saved this movie for me. I am with Josh. The story came into its own.
Well,
but
I'm
this
with
could
Josh
have,
too. Like,
this could have gone off. This could have gone off the rails.
Yeah.
It didn't. I am interested in part 2 to see if they can close it out. I've heard mixed reviews, so I'm ready to be disappointed. I'm ready for it, but I'm curious to see more of Yash's work.
And to see this cinematography in theaters would be a joy. Yeah, and the sound mixing and all that. So
yeah. There are reasons to see it, but we have to be ready to be like, oh, why?
Yeah. I think
which is possible.
I think nonetheless, though, guys, the last final word is I think we are just one, grateful that we got to watch this together, and that we're talking about it, and that we're, you know, sharing our thoughts with you, and that we're all just connecting over it. And we would be eager to hear your thoughts down below in the comments as to what you think about our thoughts, our reactions. We hope you enjoyed our reaction. You know, you guys have been waiting for a long time, and yeah, just again, like
I know some people won't like this.
Some people will not like this at all.
You guys will not like what we said.
But I guess
what I'm
trying to get at, is that we hope you understand, and we just know that we also understand and completely respect why you may like this movie, because we know that, you know, there's a whole other side to this world, a whole other, you know, culture and way of viewing cinema, and the people that create movies come from different backgrounds, come from different, you know, from different childhoods, different lives, and that forms and molds the kind of art that they create. So there's no way to know, you know, what fully inspired this movie and what the director, the writer, the creators of this movie were trying to do. But this is just our perspective and the way it resonated with us. But that's why I think we'd be really curious to see and hear down below in the comments what this movie means to you and why you love it so much. Genuinely, we'd love to hear all about that.
Now that we've seen it, there's no worry of spoilers. Just go ahead and throw it all out there. Just let us know.
And yeah, guys, but nonetheless, just thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we hope you guys enjoyed our reaction, and yeah, we're very eager to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys enjoy what we're doing here on this channel and you guys want to help support us more, you guys can check out our Patreon down below in the description or with this card up above. And yeah, well, you guys can help support us there monthly to help us get more videos out your way and create more original content. And yeah, just thank you again for your support, for your constant patience. We know you guys have been waiting a long time for this one. And yeah, we hope it was worth the wait for you guys. But go out there, spread your light, and we'll see you guys in the next MaJeliv video. Have a MaJeliv day. Bye.
Bye.